Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Sebastian Roché about 1923 on Paramount Plus. Happy New Year, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's pretty crazy. I feel like any actor or storyteller getting involved with something in the Yellowstone universe, Taylor Sheridan universe, it's a unique opportunity because there's familiar territory because we know some of the shows before, but it's new territory as well because it's new time ranges and everything. What do you think about that kind of signing on? Do you know that? Do you see that kind of familiar and unfamiliar landscape at the same time?
Yes, I do. I mean, first and foremost, I was a massive fan of Taylor Sheridan's right from when he wrote Sicario. Then I watched Hell and High Water. Then I watched Wind River. Then I watched the whole of Yellowstone. Then I watched 1883. So I think I willed myself onto the show. I thought to myself, I have to be part of the Yellowstone universe. And I don't know one actor who doesn't want to be part of that universe. So I'm very familiar, with it, of course. And what I love is that, within the Yellowstone universe is the variety of subjects that he talks about. It's that's what makes it so entertaining, interesting. So I'm thrilled to be part of the third iteration of the Yellowstone universe.
The Yellowstone universe is like getting into the cool club in high school, basically, right?
Pretty much. Yeah, it's true. It's exactly that. Yeah.
No, it's so crazy. What can you tell us specifically about the character of Father Renault, and what is that kind of mindset when you're kind of cast for a character like this? Because you played a lot of characters, a lot of different characters, if a lot of people look at your work. And I feel like this is a unique character compared to others that you worked on in other projects as well. So what was that like kind of playing this character specifically?
Yeah, what was really unique about Father Renault is that basically we are, within the fictional Yellowstone universe, we are recreating a true part of history. We're recreating a truly dark chapter in our history. What we're doing, even though it's in that fictional universe, happened. So I thought it was a great responsibility for me to inform myself about that horrific period in history. And it's actually quite newsworthy because in Canada, I think you're Canadian, right? Am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, I, of course, read the news about the discovery of children's mass graves in the residential schools. And I shot in Vancouver and, in front of the art gallery, there is a commemoration of many, I can't remember what, there are Native Canadians who are the indigenous people of Canada who are still protesting. They're not, they're silently protesting, but they are there to show their presence, and people can pay their respects in front of, for the horrific conditions that these poor children and people have gone through for more than a century. What am I talking about?
Yes.
Up to what was supposed to be our new industrial age. The fact that this was still happening in 1923, and I think some of them closed in the 50s. We're talking about torture chambers for children, literally, in the name of religious ideology. So I think so it was really important for me to tell the story in the most honest manner, and inform myself about the character. And I think it's actually very brave and incredibly insightful of Taylor Sheridan to include that within the universe.
It's gonna be, but you like what you talked about and the importance of what you talked about. I mean, no matter what time of the day you're filming this show, the sequences with Father Renault, it's gonna be emotional. It's always gonna be emotional.
Yes, absolutely. And actually doing these scenes is extremely emotional, not only for me, as the perpetrator, but then I'm working with Amina Nieves, who is part Native American, who is Indigenous American, and Lena Robinson too, who is Canadian, also Indigenous.
Yes.
So, and also extras who are from there, and our consultant, who is on Yellowstone, Mo Brings Plenty.
Yes. Who I've interviewed on the show. An
who's
I love that guy.
Amazing man, with such extraordinary class, intelligence, and poise, and does so much for his community. So you are there you have a responsibility, to these people, and it is extremely emotional. Whenever before doing a scene, it was very difficult, and there were scenes coming up where I basically had to ask forgiveness or apologize.
Yeah.
Ahead of doing the scene because of what we were about to do, even though it's a recreation.
Yes.
It's still a recreation of one of the darkest chapters in our history.
I can't even imagine. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
that brought so much pain to these people, and still to this day,
No, that is well said. Yeah, no, Mo, I have to tell you, Mo Brings Plenty. That was one of my favorite interviews of 2022. Like, it was wonderful. Such a good conversation. Like, it was just it was incredible. I know it's important that what you said. So first of all, thank you for what you said, because I feel like that is it's very important.
Yeah.
I did want to kind of talk about a few other things now that I have you here, because so many cool projects. I've noticed during the pandemic a boom of like the vampire werewolf culture. And I find it very interesting that you were part of that boom before it was a boom with the originals and the Vampire Diaries. What's that like, looking at the popularity of vampire culture, knowing that a lot of the shows you did were like, years ago and they're resurfacing now? That's interesting, right?
Yeah, it's extraordinary to see the resurgence of that, because, and I think it has to do with the fact that you are dealing with, how shall I put it? Vampires are seen, by a lot of viewers as a sort of, not sexual objects, but there's something mythical about playing someone who has a mythical sort of identity, who are immortal, and who have so much power, and at the same time, the Vampire Diaries in the originals are all about family dynamics. So there's a heightened approach to that. These are uber mensches, uber beings, and I think it attracts a whole trove of people who are fascinated by these characters, and at the same time they can distance themselves from sometimes the horrific reality that's being displayed, in the series, because it's pure fiction. Yeah. Vampires don't exist.
Yeah. No, but so there's an appetite for that content right now. There were some shows and movies that came out, the last couple of years of that, and the people go and they watch that, and then they're like, I want more. Yeah. And they go back to the originals and the Vampire Diaries. I just find that really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's also because, the Vampire Diaries was one of the first shows to appear, and that was a massive success. Yeah. And it reached a worldwide audience. It's staggering. Whenever I'll go anywhere in the world, I'll be at IKEA Istanbul. It happened to me. I was at IKEA Istanbul, and you're anywhere in the world and people will recognize you.
Were they like Mikhail? Is that you? No, it's crazy.
But it's funny. I think actually the Yellowstone universe does that in North America. Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure it's very, very popular all over the world.
Well, also you worked. I feel like you got that too. You worked on General Hospital at one point too, right?
Yeah. I mean, and Fringe and Supernatural, and all these shows become mythical because they have a huge fan base that follows them faithfully over the years, and it's the same with Yellowstone. There's a massive fan base, and people say, "Oh yeah, it's only a certain fan base." No, not at all. I'm a massive fan of Yellowstone, and I'm not, a particularly right-wing person. Everyone knows my politics.
Yes.
And I think, to label it as such.
Yes, there is that label. Wrong. It's funny. There definitely is that label. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, it's crazy that it has that label. It's basically, the Godfather as a Western. Yeah, and actually, Taylor Sheridan brings up the subject of Indian reservations, the environment, urban sprawl. So he touches on subjects that have nothing to do with only conservatism. So I think the shows are a window into something different, but yet something very, that's very, very newsworthy at the same time.
October is a really important month for me because I'm a horror movie fan, and you're gonna know where I'm going with this. And you were part of my spooky season, so to speak, because you were part of Guillermo del Toro's Cabinets of Curiosities, and I was just so that was one of those series or anthologies when it was announced that it was going to be a thing. I was counting the days for that to come out, right?
Did you like it?
I loved it. Your episode was one of my favorite episodes.
Oh,
Not
great.
just saying that. I wonder if people are going to say he's just saying that. No, I really enjoyed your episode. What's it like? Well, I mean, two-part question. I mean, what's it like being part of a show like that? We're like Twilight Zone and Black Mirror. There's the popularity of these horror anthologies, but horror is it's the genre to be in right now. You got to work in it. So what was that like specifically?
Yeah, for me, it was a thrill. I mean, because not only am I a fan of Guillermo del Toro, but I was also a massive fan of Twilight Zone, Black Mirror, these sort of anthology series.
Oh, yeah.
So for me to work with one of the great filmmakers of our time in an episode that he'd written with Regina Corrado and directed by Guillermo Navarro, who was his DP on nearly all of his movies, cinematographer, it was such a thrill. And I really, really loved the character of Roland, this sort of eccentric specialist in the occult. I actually thought that, the relationship with Tim Blake Nelson, who was this sort of grumpy ex-veteran, was perfect. I thought we could be a show. We should be a show because we were like, the straight man and the clown. And I thought it would turn into actually an amazing series if we could have, two specialists of the occult. But it was a thrill to work on that series because, I mean, look, the production value, the writing, the directing.
The openings, though, of Guillermo setting up the episodes.
Yes.
It's funny you mentioned that. The setup, if you go back and watch the setup of your episode with Tim, it's very good what he says.
Yeah. It really is very good.
That was.
It has a bit of Alfred Hitchcock Presents too.
There's one I'm going to recommend. So I'm not sure if I watched it on Netflix, but some things come and go on Netflix, so I'm not sure if it's there. There was a Norwegian show called Blood Ride. That was like the same thing. It was just anthology.
Oh, really?
Blood Ride. Yeah. It was amazing.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, it was on Netflix. It was the same stuff. Cabinet of Curiosity, like different tales.
Because it enables people to do their own. It's great to have different directors try their own version of a genre. It's great.
I'm gonna go back and rewatch. I love horror so much, Sebastian. It's such a good genre. There's so much happening. There's so much happening in the genre that just amazes me. Like there's different ways to scare people these days. It's crazy.
Yeah. I actually just finished a script myself that I wrote that is that deals with it's.
Is it horror? Is it horror?
Yeah, it is.
Yes. Okay, good.
And it deals with mythology in a certain country, and it's pretty amazing. I'm hoping to actually do sort of 3 parts that take place in different mythologies, and it's present day, but it's really horrific.
But it's like the sky is the limit in that genre, and I just know I can't. That's awesome to hear, and so many projects. Sebastian, thank you so much for joining me on Popternative. It was so great chatting with you.
Such a pleasure. Great to chat with you too. Thank you so much.
1923 on Paramount Plus. They could check that out. Episodes are rolling out, which is great. And if they want to keep up to date with Instagram, is it just your name, Sebastian Roché?
Yeah, it's at Sebastian Roché on Instagram. Yeah, unfortunately, there's no accent because they don't.
They don't do that.
It drives me nuts.
Absolutely,
the accent needs to be back on keyboards.
Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. You can catch Sebastian Roché as Father Renault in 1923 on Paramount Plus. Until next time, this is Sebastian and PD Beats signing off. Happy New Year.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.